The Souls games are famous for having some of the hardest bosses that gaming can offer, so today I'm going over the hardest boss from every Souls game. For Demon Souls, I'm going with Old King Allant. He has the most health of any boss in the game, and while he doesn't do too much damage, his attacks are very fast and he can even launch towards you super fast like a certain animatronic fox, making it hard to get heals off, and you can get overwhelmed pretty quickly. He has some ranged attacks too, like some wind slashes that have a lot of range, but don't really do much damage, and also an explosion that covers half of the arena, but you can stun him out of it or just run away fairly easily. He's the only boss in this series that can literally take levels away from you, which he does by doing a grab attack, so you need to be extra careful for that or you'll be in a lot of trouble. The run back to this boss is also one of the worst in the entire series, so my mental health was like drained by the time I got to him, which made this fight just as much of a battle of patience as it was a battle of skill. It's so easy to get almost infinite healing in this game, so as long as you can find a good healing opportunity, you can survive against this or even any boss in the game pretty much forever, which is why it's pretty hard to determine which boss in this game is truly the hardest. For Dark Souls, I'm going with good old Ornstein and Smo. It starts off as a gank boss with two enemies that have a lot of health, especially if you haven't upgraded your weapons past +5 at this point.
This does not apply if you're using the Black Knight weapons or the Dragon Tooth, as they make everything in this game easy.
Ornstein zooms around the entire arena with his glitchy flying attack that can be super unpredictable, and he can shoot lightning at you from across the arena, which can be troublesome if you're fighting Smo and busy looking out for his attacks. Smo walks around slowly with sudden bursts of speed right as he's about to attack, and he does a lot of damage if he connects with you. Just as with every gank fight, it can be hard to manage the both of them and find opportunities to get hits in, but I prefer to let Ornstein fly towards me while Smo is strolling around slowly, which lets me get some fairly free hits in. Smo does like running right as I look away from him though, which has gotten me killed quite a few times. Once you kill one of them, Ornstein in my case, the other takes their power and buffs themselves, and it doesn't matter how much damage you did to him in the first phase, they'll always start phase 2 with max health. Smo now does more damage and his hammer is imbued with lightning, but other than that his moveset doesn't change too much, so this phase is a lot easier as you don't need to worry about Ornstein zooming towards you. That is, until he does his secret special technique, like ground slam. He can jump high up in the air and slam himself into the ground, creating a large lightning explosion, and this attack has killed me in one shot more than once, so you need to be really careful about this one. For Dark Souls 2, I'm going with the Dark Lurkers, my favorite boss that I hate. For starters, the quest you need to do to even reach this boss is the hardest thing I've had to do in any Souls game. As for the boss itself, it starts off fairly easy as you just have one magic spammer that launches various spells at you, like a fireball, an explosion that goes through a black hole which can spawn anywhere in the arena, a magic missile that tracks you, a laser that can slice through the toughest of armors. Hell, this boss even has the energy sword from Halo. These attacks do a lot of damage and could easily kill me in 2 hits, but on their own they weren't too troublesome. However, it is when you reach phase 2 that this boss becomes absolute hell. Now you need to look out for 2 of these guys and what attack each one of them is doing, all the while they can teleport to any location in the arena whenever they want. And with how different each of their attacks is, this becomes an almost impossible task for me and my ADHD brain. The cherry on top that makes this boss the hardest boss in this game is the fact that it's in this game. Your healing items are super slow, so if you even slightly mess up your healing timing, you can easily get one shot, and on top of that, you lose some of your max HP every time you die, and effigies are fairly limited, especially against this boss. In Bloodborne, there's one boss that stands above the rest, and that is Orphan of Cause. This is one of the most aggressive bosses in the entire series, and he does a lot of damage. He can kill you within seconds with a simple 1-2, and his weapon is super unpredictable as it has an umbilical cord that he can use to launch his weapon at you, and makes it come back to him just as quickly, dealing a lot of damage both ways. He can also throw little meatballs at you, which explode on impact and do a ton of damage, and I cannot figure out how to dodge them as I'm pretty sure they home onto you. And all of this was just phase 1. In phase 2 he somehow becomes even more aggressive and does even more damage, and to quote myself, it's going so well but it can end at any second. Which is especially true with his upgraded version of the meatball, where instead of throwing 1 he now jumps around and throws 6, and this attack killed me when I was max HP more than 5 times. His combos are absolute insanity now, and he can jump across the entire arena in seconds, and he can call to his mother's corpse which launches waves of lightning towards you, which you now also need to look out for. Dark Souls 3 has a lot of contenders, but ultimately I'm going with Dark Eater Midir. So what makes him stand out above the rest? For starters, he does a lot of damage as he killed me in 2 or 3 hits with most of his attacks, and for a dragon he has a lot of very long combos which could kill me very easily. He's also super tanky, and to even be able to kill him I needed to learn every single one of his attacks almost perfectly, or else I would just die. Now granted, I'm weird with this game as I never upgrade my vitality above 27 because you have exactly 1000 health at that level, which I just find satisfying to look at, so that might have complicated things a little. Of course, we still need to cover his second phase, in which he becomes a lot more aggressive and he can launch magic towards you that is straight from the abyss. He also gets a huge laser attack that is super fast and unpredictable and killed me in 1 hit pretty much every time. Sekiro is a game mostly about parrying, so what happens when you make a boss that is almost redundant to parry? You get Demon of Hatred. This beast has 3 separate health bars, each of them having an insane amount of health, and since you can't really parry this boss, his posture bar also becomes pretty much useless, so you need to slowly chip away at his health for all 3 phases. Every single one of his attacks did an insane amount of damage, 2 of which would one-shot me almost every time, which were the lunge attack that was unblockable and you had to jump away from, and the fireball attack, which I to this day do not know how to dodge. I just got lucky every time they missed me. A lot of his attacks also had fire damage, so even if you block them, you'd still take damage, and these attacks are hard to dodge through, so I was in a lot of trouble with most of his attacks as they required almost perfect timing. Every new phase also has 1 or 2 new attacks that you need to learn, making the fight even more complicated than it already is just in phase 1. This fight took me 10 whole minutes on the attempt to kill him, which is more time than any other boss in the series, and that was 10 minutes of evading one-shot attacks and slowly chipping away at him. And just look at my health when I finally beat him. For Elden Ring, I'm once again separating the base game from the DLC, which unfortunately does make the answers pretty obvious for each one. The hardest boss in the base game goes to Malenia. In phase 1 she is kind of fair as she is very respectful and gives you a lot of time to heal and think about your upcoming attacks. She does however heal every time she hits you, and of course she has the infamous waterfowl. But at least in this phase it's scripted at around 65% of her health, so you can know around when you need to run away to evade it, because if you don't have time to run away you will most likely just die to it or take a lot of damage. And hell, I didn't even have the move mastered until I was about 60 attempts into fighting her, and this was my 3rd time fighting against her, and I also only know the basics of dodging it because I saw some shorts about it years ago. Now during phase 2 she is a completely different beast. She's a lot more aggressive and barely gives you any time to heal, all the while she can inflict you with Scarlet Rot, and a lot of her attacks have rot after effects. She also has a brand new overpowered attack, which is the Clone Launch, which also took me just as many attempts to perfect as a waterfowl. And speaking of waterfowl, it is even more unpredictable now as she can do it whenever the hell she wants. So a lot of my runs ended because I was rushing up to her as she had low HP, and then I saw her jump up and everything turned black. I found the key to killing her was just to be really aggressive and trade some blows with her to try to get as much bleed and posture damage, and I also had to be lucky and pray she didn't do the waterfowl when I was in a bad position or low on health, because I would just die. For Shadow of the Erdtree, I'm of course going with the man, the myth, the legend, the promised consort Radahn. He starts off fairly hard as he has a lot of different attacks and combos, and he doesn't leave much time in between attacks, so you can get pretty overwhelmed quickly. He also has 2 gravity attacks, one where he pulls you in and then smashes the ground, creating a huge area of pure damage, which is pretty hard to dodge if he does manage to pull you. The other one, he launches meteors at you, which is also pretty hard to dodge and does a lot of damage. However, it isn't until phase 2 when this fight gets borderline unfair. Now almost every one of his attacks has a holy light after effect that not only does quite a bit of damage, but it also blinds you for a little bit and stuns you, making it harder to dodge his upcoming attacks, which is probably the reason for most of my deaths against him. And he gains a new combo which lasts for what feels like an eternity, and I don't think I ever got out of it unscathed. He can also do some clone attacks where he launches multiple clones at you and does a load of damage while he's at it, which he also incorporates into some of his older attacks like the meteor one, which now becomes even more deadly. And as a throwback to his other fight Starscourge Radahn, he can of course become a meteor himself, blowing up over half the arena and doing insane damage while he's at it. Now the debate becomes whether he is harder than Malenia or not, which I will answer in a video I'll be making soon, which is the top 10 hardest Souls bosses of all time. So look forward to that, and I will see you soon.